Welcome to this episode of Tech Threads. I'm your host, Max Watson, and today I talked with Alba González, a principal product manager at Capital One and the founder of The Positive Career. Well, Alba, welcome to Tech Threads. I'm excited to have you on tonight to kind of talk about what we're gonna discuss here in a little bit.
Hi, Max. Thank you for having me here. Excited to chat more.
Yeah, I'm super excited to have you on because I feel like what we're going to talk about today is like very pertinent to a lot of people. We're going to talk about interviewing AI, how that's impacting things, your experience with AI and interviewing and coaching and stuff like that. So I think a lot of people are going to really like this one. But before we jump into it, could you kind of give a little like overview about who you are, what you do, that sort of thing?
Yes, absolutely. So my name is Alba González, and I like to describe myself as a purpose-driven professional. So I'm gonna talk about how I help others. So in my 9 to 5, I'm a principal product manager for Capital One. So I'm in fintech, and I'm really helping customers maximize the value on their daily spend. So basically, what I do is giving credit card rewards. So really fun. And then outside of my 9 to 5 as a product manager, I am an entrepreneur. I started a career coaching business around a year ago where I help professionals really level up, find careers that are aligned with them. And that's sort of what we are going to talk today is how AI is changing the interviewing landscape, and it's going to be really value packed. I hope like the listeners can come out of this with a framework and some sort of guideline on how to answer these questions if they come up in interviews.
Yeah, 100%. I know a lot of people, especially right now, they're either
Mhm.
in like a transition to a product management role, or they have a project management role
Mhm.
or product management role, and they want to do another like transition to another industry, or they're trying to just like find their next role. So I think this is going to be really exciting. Do you want to, yeah, start out by kind of explaining what you're seeing with interviewing and AI and how that's being impacted?
Yes, totally. So my experience, I'm recently gonna transition to a new role. So I've been interviewing for the past 4 to 5 months myself, but also as a career coach. I'm hearing a lot what my clients are going through and what kind of questions they are being asked in interviews. And I see this consistent topic of AI, right? Even if you are not applying for an AI product manager or you're not gonna use AI or build an AI product, it's always a question that comes up. And the question that I'm always seeing come up is how are you using AI into day-to-day job as a product manager, right? So really the interviewers are trying to see, are you already on the AI wave, right? Are you able to use it and leverage it to have better insights, to maximize the value delivery, to reduce the time that you're spending on certain things? So they really want to grasp basically your AI understanding and how often you're using it in your day-to-day as a product manager. So what I've been seeing and the struggle I had as well was just keeping it very surface level, right? Like I started saying like, oh yeah, I use ChatGPT or maybe I've done some prototyping, but I wasn't really having like a framework or a way to really structure my answer in the way that was the most impactful. And that's how I came up with this framework that I'm going to talk about today, which helps you structure, first of all, what questions are you trying to answer with AI, the value that you're delivering, and then some considerations.
Yeah, no, that's super interesting. That's kind of like the way that these interviews have kind of taken. It makes sense because AI is such a big thing, but it's interesting that they're wanting to know how like you as a product manager are going to be using AI. What are some of the common like use cases that you've heard from either your clients or just your own
Mhm.
personal experience on how you're using AI and how I guess interviewers like to see product
Yes.
managers using
Mhm.
AI?
So there are two main themes. That's a really good question. So I categorize it as more of the operational AI use cases, which is kind of like your day-to-day as a product manager. This kind of category is more for like entry-level product managers, so those product managers that are very in the weeds with their technical teams. Maybe you're a technical PM, which is really a lot about how do you help your team. So it can be through help using AI to write requirements, right? Like PRDs. It can be for prototyping, which is obviously accelerating the delivery and the insights that you're having. It can be writing user stories, right? It's a lot more operational slash tactical. So that's like one big category. I like to use communication as well there because at the end the value that you're delivering by using AI to communicate better is faster alignment with your stakeholders, right? If you're very clear in your delivery, then everybody's going to be on the same page and you can make fast decisions. So that's the operational AI use case. And then I have the strategic AI use case, which is more for senior PMs that are more involved into the roadmap. What do we build next? Gathering insights about your customers, about the product. So a lot more like data analytics, sort of AI use. Oh, I
Sorry,
lost
there
you
you
for a
are. Sorry, I
second.
think I lost you for a second. That's fine. We could,
Yes.
yeah, we could
Okay.
work that out. Sorry, you were talking about your oh, I think I lost you again. Oh, there you are.
Oh,
Perfect. So we were talking about your strategic AI
yes.
usage.
Yes. Yes. So strategic again, it's a lot more about how what do we build next, gathering insights, data analytics. So a lot more strategic in that sense, as the word says. And I seen it more in more senior PM roles where they really want to see like what's your vision of the product and how are you using it for road mapping, prioritization, gathering insights, kind of like product discovery sort of product, I guess, phases.
Yeah, when you, because I feel like a lot of PMs, they want to do these and they want to kind of get
Mhm.
into the AI of things. Do you have any resources that you used or anything that helped you kind of get into those two sides of AI in a way, getting
Yes.
more strategic and getting more, operational with it?
Yes. So let me talk first about the framework because I think that would really help
Mhm.
coming up with the tools or kind of like the strategy. So the framework, I named it A.I.M, which is first the application, whether it's operational or strategic. So you're gonna start talking about what problem you're trying to solve, right? Is it like an operational problem or is it a strategic problem? Sort
Mm.
of like the context of what you're trying to do. So that's application, the first part. Then the impact, which is also very common in star interviews, right? Like what was your outcome or what you were trying to achieve? So a lot of people focus on what they are trying to do, but not the impact that it has, right? Like at the end, we want to use AI, but we want to start using AI having the outcome in mind. What value are we driving, right? So that would be the impact portion, which is the second part. And then at the end is the mindset. So as you know, right, when we use AI, we have to be very mindful of considerations about AI. For example, if you're in a regulated environment like I am, right, like you have to make sure that you're not including like our customers' data or any sort of sensitive data. If you're trying to build products using AI, making sure the AI is not biased in terms of the data that you're inputting in your models. So those are kind of like the mindset bullet points that you want to discuss about while you're talking about what did you try to do with AI.
Yeah, and I think that's super interesting for people. Um, I guess how do I put this? For people who might not, like, for example, like you say, some organizations aren't as AI forward as others. Some have kind of like restrictions depending on kind of what industry and what company you work for. For those product managers who might not be able to use AI a lot during their like 9 to 5, do you have any advice on how they can still gain that AI experience that interviewers may be
Absolutely.
looking for
So the
without having
first
to do it?
There
Mhm.
are two main, I guess, use cases that I always recommend to have an example that are really easy wins. So the first one is using AI for communication, right? I would say now like 90% of companies have some sort of AI tool, even if it's very rudimentary, like Copilot, if you use Teams or anything like that, right? Like you can always explain ChatGPT that, okay, this is what I'm trying to do, this is the value that I'm trying to convey, or this is I have like these two options of things I want to build, give me the pros and cons. So those are very easy examples to use in an interview that, okay, I have to make a decision on what to build next, I have these two options and I have to communicate them to leadership. So I use ChatGPT or Copilot to help me really have these bullet points in a way that were very clear and really communicate the pros and cons. And really the impact that it drove was better alignment. My stakeholders understood the two options, the trade-offs, and then we were able to make a faster decision, a more informed decision. And I had to make sure as a mindset, right, that I gather all these pros and cons from actual real data that I understand about my product and what my tech teams are saying. So that's a very easy example right there that I just gave you, communication. The second one I would say is prototyping. Prototyping is something you can do in 5 minutes at home. You can build a prototype of whatever idea you have, whatever product idea, and you can use this prototype in, for example, your portfolio, right? You can create a portfolio, you can put a link to Lovable with something you build, maybe create a small PRD or a small requirement document. You can showcase that in an interview. You can say that, like, for example, I'm very passionate about snowboarding and I built this prototype that shows, okay, based on your height and your weight and the kind of snow that you have in the mountain, this is the snowboard that you should be buying, or these are some of the characteristics that you should be looking for. Like, we actually built that with my partner one night just for fun. We were like hanging out talking about snowboarding, and we were like, oh man, there is no tool out there that really compares all these boards, and it really customizes them for you to help you make an informed decision on what to buy. So that could be a really fun example to say, I know how to prototype outside of work, right? So think about something you're passionate about and build a small prototype and talk about what problem you were solving and what
Yeah.
value it drove.
Yeah, that's a great example. And I know a lot of PMs, at least some people here in the UPG community, they've
Mm-hmm.
been doing more of this like prototyping and like actually putting it out there and like getting people to use it on
Mm-hmm.
the side kind of as a fun task, which is awesome.
Exactly.
For you in like your experience helping people
Mm-hmm.
prepare for interviews, helping them get more AI literate, are
Mm-hmm.
there any like mistakes that you commonly see that product managers do that kind of hurt their prospects when they're
Mm-hmm.
interviewing or preparing for these interviews?
Yes, I think one of them is really focusing on tools. So a lot of product managers just say, okay, I'm using XYZ tool, kind of like a list of tools, trying to show that, hey, I've experimented with all these tools, I know all these tools, but they forget either to say why they were using a specific tool versus others, or why is that tool good for what they were trying to solve. So for example, think about Perplexity, right? Perplexity, at least in my experience, is really good for like research, right? It gathers a lot of research and insights. So if you're trying, for example, to do market analysis, you could say something like, I was trying to gather insights about the market that I'm in and what trends are coming in the next year, so we can build products that are aligned with the market trends. And I use Perplexity because it gathers information from more sources than other models, and I felt more confident that the data that I was gonna get out of it was like more comprehensive. So that right there is what really the interviewers want to see, is that you understand why you're using one model versus the other, and why they are different and how to use what model.
Yeah, I think because I think you mentioned it earlier as well. Like whenever you're using these models, you're kind of vetting the information that they give you and kind of checking that. Because I currently am I'm a software engineer actually, and
Mm-hmm.
we are working on like an AI platform and all these things, and we're constantly worried about like the correctness of what we're doing. Like, is the stuff that the models are putting out and our system putting out, is it correct? So, do you have any advice for PMs on how they can kind of vet the data or explain the vet the data or explain how they could, bring that up in an interview to kind of show their AI literacy?
Yes, totally. So that will fall into the mindset portion of it, right? As I said, you first say what you're trying to solve, then how you're solving it, what tools you're using, the value that's driven. But as a mindset, obviously, as you said, we have to do data validation, or we have to do some sort of checking and keeping the human in the loop and making sure we don't trust AI blindly. So I think my recommendation would be, first, be very clear on your outcome, because otherwise you're not going to be able to understand whether you achieve the outcome that you were looking for, right? Like, have a goal and then have you met the goal with AI, but then really looking at the output and trying to understand, does this make sense given what I know, right? Like, given the assumptions that I made, is this making sense or not? So validating the assumptions and really looking into the data that went in. Always something that I recommend when you're trying to do any kind of data analysis is looking at whether your data is biased or not, and then whether it's representative of your customer or what you're trying to do, right? So doing a lot of that work early on will really help you have a more clean outcome, because there is this saying, right? Like, garbage in, garbage out. So make sure what you put in, it's good, it's curated, it's been reviewed, so that what comes out, you have more confidence in what you're getting.
Yeah, that's a great way to vet. I mean, with you and when you've been like helping people prepare for interviews and you
Mhm.
going through it, have you seen a big shift in the like traditional interview style that PMs normally go through? Or is it relatively similar to what it is, but with just kind of like this added AI feature?
So I would say the fundamentals are the same. I mean, they are trying to see whether you have the skills that they need, right, for you to be able to do the role. So a lot of behavioral interview questions, like always. So I've always used the STAR method, and that's what I teach my clients. So they always have this set of 50 questions that I send them, which are the most commonly asked questions. And they reply those with a STAR interview. But then there are all these other product sense, right? Like product strategy questions, which I think they've been there for a long time as well. And I haven't seen much of a shift in terms of the kind of questions. But as you said, I think now they're plugging AI a lot more. So instead of, for example, telling you, okay, design, I don't know, like a rideshare app, they might tell you, okay, design a rideshare app that has one artificial intelligence feature, or how would you
Mm.
build an artificial intelligence feature in XYZ product. So they want you to think about, okay, we are not just building AI because like we have to have a hypothesis on why this is a good use case to use AI, or what the value that AI is bringing to our customers. So that's what they want you to really have, that thinking of, again, value delivery, and not just let's use AI and in everything that we possibly
Right.
can, but really started to think, is this a good use case for AI? And I think a lot of people and companies don't realize that AI at the end is all about the data, as I said, right? So there is this framework is called the AI usability framework, which is a set of questions you can ask about a specific problem to see if AI is actually a good solution for it. And some of the questions is, do I have abundant data? Is my data biased or unbiased? Is my data predictable, right? The more noise you have in your data, the harder it's going to be for the model to have insights on it or to have clarity. So if it's a completely random data, you're not going to be able to do anything with it. And then obviously all the ethical and legal considerations of your data. If you're using very highly sensitive, high risk data, maybe AI is not the best the best tool for it because of all these considerations. So again, really thinking in advance and discussing those points as I'm explaining them to you, to the interviewer, will really show that you're thinking about AI as a product manager, like the risks, the dependencies, all the considerations, the value that you're delivering.
Yeah. Do you, because it seems like you've learned a lot of this stuff, and I feel like a lot of people have
Mhm,
since AI is so new, but do you have any
mhm,
recommendations on like, are certificates good to help
mhm,
PMs learn more about AI? Do you have any like books, any resources, or have you learned a lot of your AI knowledge just from like Google and articles and that sort of thing?
mhm.
Do you have any advice for PMs
Yes.
out there who want to get into this and might not have that information
Totally.
now?
So, I mean, everyone learns in a different way. I'm a very like visual person. So for me, like for example, hearing podcasts and seeing people talk, that's really the way I like to learn. So for example, Lenny's podcast is great. He interviews like the best of the best. So try to find these episodes where he's talking about AI or how other companies are building AI. So I like to learn by seeing how other people or companies are doing, because it's like a very tangible example that I can understand. In terms of certifications, I personally took the one from Product School, which is the free mini AI certification, which was kind of helpful in terms of thinking about guardrails and sort of like the validation after you've implemented AI. So it was more hands-on of how do we build an AI product, I guess, and what are the
Mhm.
considerations, not so much about how we use AI as a product manager. But if you're planning to be an AI PM and build AI products, that's a really good one. And then just really YouTube and anything that's online that's free that that you can review. I would really recommend trying to understand the fundamentals though, instead of first like the applications or what to do with it, is what AI is, right? Like, and how does it work, and the different models and what kind of data they use, and kind of like the technical part, I guess. I think that for me it helped to understand, okay, what is this black box actually
Mhm.
about, right? Because I feel like
Right.
it's this buzzword like AI, but like what is actually AI, right? So I will start there.
Yeah, that makes total sense because I know the AI, like you could use it for a million different ways,
Mhm.
but yeah, narrowing it down that way can really help. Do you, if you, with your experience talking with interviewers and preparing people for interviews, do like certifications pull a lot of weight with these interviews? Do like recruiters like to see
Mhm.
certifications, or would they rather just see your overall knowledge of the subject? Have you felt like any sort
Mhm.
of, I guess, vibe from the recruiters or
Yes.
interviewers on kind of what they're looking for?
That's a really good question. So what I've seen, I mean, you can put anything on a resume nowadays, right? Like you can add XYZ skill, but at the end of the day, they are gonna try to test it. Whether you say you have a AI certification, then they come, they ask you this question, and I use ChatGPT. That's telling me nothing about what you've learned about AI. So I think it's a combination of both. I always recommend having a certification or having some sort of like portfolio, like show and tell instead of just put it on your resume. So I would say ideal scenario you have both. You're able to articulate AI, have you use it, the value that you deliver, have a portfolio with some prototypes, and then have a certification. That'd be your best bet. If you don't have a certification, but you come in really prepared with these frameworks and you're able to articulate an answer and showcase, that I think that's what drives more value. Like I've seen people get hired in more like AI savvy positions where they require more AI knowledge without having any certification. At the end of the day, they are like quite expensive because it's really hot right now. So like companies are taking advantage of it that everyone wants to get certified. So I don't think it's totally necessary unless you are really gonna build AI products and you have absolutely no experience building AI products, then you really need to learn those fundamentals and what it takes.
Yeah, and I can totally see that with my experience as well. Because I know I started some AI courses like I think it was 8 or 9 months ago.
Mhm.
And I mean, as you can imagine, from 8 or 9 months ago to now, like it's completely different. Like everything I learned, the
Yes,
fundamentals
totally.
do pull weight, like you said, like those have stayed consistent, but everything
Mhm.
else is just like, well, that model's 6 months outdated, and there's like seven more that are way better. And there's like all these different techniques and like different
Mhm.
ways that you could be like chaining threads and stuff like that. So it's just interesting to see and kind of like what you've explained, like, yeah,
Mhm.
certificates help. They definitely kind of show your credibility, but then at the end of the day, you got to know what the certificate was. And that's like by going
Right.
online and YouTube and those sorts of things. Um, I know as we're kind of coming up closer to time, do you have any last like advice for product
Mhm.
managers out there, whether they're looking for a new position, trying to get
Mhm.
in, or just want to get better with AI and prepare for like possible interviews in the future? Do you have any advice for them on
Mhm.
something they can do or anything that we haven't discussed yet?
Yes, totally. So that's kind of coming back to the framework, right? And the fundamentals, how to structure AI questions in an interview. So start with the actionable kind of like impact that you're gonna have, and then your mindset. So this A.I.M framework. And what I like to have is just a grid. So you first have an example. I like to have at least one operational and one strategic example. And then you're gonna have your application column, your impact, and your mindset, and just agreed and just write bullet points like, okay, example number one, communication, this is the application, this was the impact, it was the mindset. If you have at least 2 3 examples in a grid format, that's super easy to pull in an interview, that's super easy to remember, and just have those examples ready to discuss. That would be my number one, I guess, recommendation, to really be ready and then play with it. Like do something fun with it. That's how I really learn it. Just like building my business and building all these prototypes about things that I like to do. So experiment, play with them. That's how you're really gonna learn.
100%. I couldn't echo that more. That framework is awesome because I know, especially a lot of people when they get into interviews, using like communicating their what they know out is often like one of the biggest challenges. So like having
Totally.
a framework or something like that, like you've developed,
Mhm.
really is helpful for them to really get their full value out
It
there and really
is.
display kind of what they know. Do you want to explain a little bit about your like business? Like where can people find you if
Mhm.
they're looking for more information like this?
Yes, absolutely. So my career coaching company, it's called The Positive Career. And that's because I use some of the principles from positive psychology. I believe the job search is not just about strategies, which of course they are really important, but also that emotional support, that encouragement. The job market out there is it's really rough. So having somebody that can cheer on you, that can support you, that can give you that accountability, that's really what I try to bring into my coaching. So you can find me on LinkedIn, connect with me through my name, and then just we can chat, because I really like to do just one-on-one personalized coaching. So I do have some standard packages, but most of the time it's just based on what your needs are, how many sessions you're gonna need, what specific support I can give, and that's what we will be discussing.
100%. I think a lot of people could really use someone like you to kind of help them, push them along. Yeah, be that positive support because it is a
So,
rough market for product managers right now. And I'll be
mhm.
sure to attach your LinkedIn and like information to your
Thank you
company
so much.
in the service as well. But Alba, thanks once again for coming on. I think what you've shared is awesome. I think the framework's phenomenal and will really help product managers out there. So I appreciate you coming on.
Thank you so much. Nice to talk to you. Bye, Max.